We have several new terms in this section dealing with circles. So the first one we're going to talk about is a central angle, and it's pretty much exactly like it sounds. It's an angle whose vertex is at the center of a circle. So looking below, notice we have an angle here. The center is O, and so we would call this angle AOB, would be a central angle. It's coming from the center. The next term we're going to look at is an arc, and I like to think of an arc as a portion of the circumference. An arc is an unbroken part of a circle consisting of two endpoints. So let's take points A and B. There's your two endpoints, and it's all of the points in between. So it's unbroken, and it's just a portion of that circumference. So we note an arc with this symbol right here. So we would call this arc AB. Then we have adjacent arcs, much like we have adjacent angles, and so those are going to be arcs of the same circle that intersect at exactly one point. So if I look below, and I'm going to add a point right here just to... So let's take arc AB that we've already talked about. It would be adjacent to BX. And then we have congruent arcs. Congruent arcs are just arcs that have the same measure. So much like you have congruent angles, you can have congruent arcs. Now there's a few things to note. You could say, we don't have anything necessarily on this, but you could talk about an arc AB. This is the actual arc. And then you can also refer to it as the measure of arc AB, and that is your degrees. So just like we have angle A and then the measure of angle A, you have different notations that you're using depending on if you're talking about the degrees or the actual arc. Then we go a little further and we talk about what is a minor arc. Well, a minor arc, the measure is less than 180 degrees. So up above, we were looking at minor arc AB. And the reason I knew it was minor is because it's less than a semicircle. You can kind of visualize what a semicircle would look like. And we know that all the way around a circle is 360 degrees, so that a semicircle is going to be 180. So I can tell that this minor arc right here, minor arc AB, is going to be less than that semicircle. Well, then a major arc measures greater than 180 degrees. So we have several now that we could talk about, but let's imagine if we said we're going to start at B and then we're going to go clockwise. We're going to go through A and all the way over to C. Well, how would we describe that? You could call it arc BAC, or you could call it arc CAB. You couldn't call it really anything else, but notice the measure of that is bigger than 180 degrees. And then lastly, we have a semicircle where the measure is exactly 180 degrees. And we would call that, let's look over here, it's a little easier for us to see. I'm going to put a letter. And notice if I go halfway around the circle, we would call that arc AYB, or you could say BYA. Now the important thing to note is that a semicircle is 3 letters always. A major arc is 3 letters always, and a minor arc is 2 letters.